about the curious case of George Zimmerman's public defender. Now, everybody knows who George Zimmerman is. A lot of people even know who his brother is. But there's a sort of strange tie with this guy, Jeff Dowdy. Explain to people what this is.
Well, it's bizarre because now that Mr. Zimmerman is in court again, facing new charges, he has new lawyers. His Blockbuster lawyer said after his first arrest with his wife, he's no longer representing him. And so Zimmerman, who I think has $169 to his name and no bank account, and is $2.5 million in debt.
How is that possible after all of those fundraising efforts and all that? Weren't people trying to give this guy money hand over fist?
Well, I keep saying just sell some of your guns and you'll have more money. I mean, you must have stockpiles.
Very good
That's
point.
What your supporters got you. So he has two public defenders in his latest case, the girlfriend who's accusing him of harassment. And so... which is, in itself normal. But what's unique here is that one of his lawyers, Jeff, was the lawyer for his brother during the entire Zimmerman saga, was a big supporter of the Zimmerman cause, appeared on conservative radio shows to promote Zimmerman. And
let me name a couple of those
please.
shows right now, one of which was called Armed American Radio, a fringe show produced by the United States Concealed Carry Association, which is frightening on every level, but proceed, please.
Yes. And, called, I think, Zimmerman an altar boy and was just a very big defender.
Wow.
And it just so happened, coincidentally, that a couple of weeks before Zimmerman found himself in legal trouble, Jeff Dowdy left his firm and joined the public defender's office in the very district where Zimmerman got in trouble.
Huh. And to head it up, right?
To head it up, and is now heading the entire public defender's office. And typically, the head of the office doesn't deal in specific cases, or at least gets to pick and choose which cases he wants to work on, and works on murders or kind of very big profile cases. But in this case, it looks like Jeff Dowdy assigned himself to this case. And Zimmerman was in a situation where he had a public defender who was kind of your normal run-of-the-mill public defender. And then this guy who was a big Zimmerman proponent, a very experienced lawyer, the head of the entire department.
A family friend on a certain level.
Working on his behalf. Now, the funny thing is, about 2 or 3 hours after we put up that story on Think Progress, Dowdy announced that Zimmerman, with his $169, $2.5 million in debt and no bank account, has retained a private attorney, and that Jeff Dowdy would now be stepping down, and so will his co-counselor, public defendant, and Zimmerman will be moving forward with his new private attorney, who I assume is doing this work pro bono on Zimmerman's
Impact
behalf.
journalism right there. So let's review quickly. First of all, so Dowdy is whilst George Zimmerman is in the national spotlight for what happened with the Trayvon Martin case. First of all, his brother, Robert, for what reason does his brother even have a lawyer?
Robert was a big advocate for his brother, was on TV all the time.
Why did he need a lawyer?
I think kind of guiding him and helping him and advising him.
That was weird. So he's
I have a lawyer just to be on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I do too. What are you doing,
He's
Clayton?
the lawyer. I'm representing myself. You see that? I'm representing myself. So he's the lawyer for Robert during the George incident.
Yes.
He conveniently finds himself in a position to help George when George gets into more stuff most recently. When he decides to do that, you guys publish a story and then he steps down.
Well, yes, that's a very good way to present it.
I mean, is that?
Yeah, you should speak to our donors and just in that sequence.
I mean, listen, not to be too forward about, but that seems like, that's an awfully strange timeline.
It's a strange timeline, and it's strange that he would go with someone else, given the history with Jeff and the fact that he clearly was impactful in the past and worked with Robert and kind of helped them. Because, I think coming out of, and this kind of speaks to the effectiveness of the entire Zimmerman mystique, coming out of the trial, I think there was a sense, I mean, certainly in that jury room, after we heard from the jurors, there was that sense that maybe George Zimmerman wasn't an altar boy, but he was a man who, who had to defend himself, a man who, didn't have kind of a racist bone in his body and found himself in a tough situation.
Throwback kind of guy. Who
right.
likes whatever, yeah.
I mean, now, since then, we've discovered with all these new incidents that that's really not the case.
Not at all.
Not at all. But the effort to paint him as a victim in some regard, I think, was successful, and was successful partly because of Robert Zimmerman and Jeff Dowdy.
Right.